will come and start firing from there. So, according to chapter 13, verse 1, there is a field and knower of the field. And how many fields are there? It's a trick question. How many fields are there?
There's only one body, right?
Sure? Only one body?
I mean, in the present life.
No, but you are one body, I am one body. So how many bodies are there?
Oh, like that? Okay. There are 4.3 billion.
4.3 billion categories, but infinite number of bodies. You cannot count. I mean,
Mhm.
it's finite. It's not really infinite, but for practical purposes, it is infinite number of fields. So what Krishna is saying is, you know what is happening in your field. You don't know what's happening in the neighbor's field. But I know what's happening in every field. Intuitively, you expect God to be like that, right? Intuitively expect God to know everything. Right? Like when you are trying to take darshan of Lord Balaji in the line in Tirupati, you are praying, Balaji, my business should run well. And there is a pickpocket also in that line. And he's also praying to Balaji for what, you know? What is the pickpocket praying in the line?
For his business.
Yeah, Balaji, I don't want to steal too many purses. But whatever purse I steal should have more money, you know. ये पापी पेट का सवाल है. You have to ensure that whatever pocket I pick should be rich so that I don't have to work too hard. I don't want to trouble too many people, you know. I'm a good person. I will only pick a few pockets, but it is your job, God, to make those pockets really heavy so that I don't have to work too hard. You know, I have to take your darshan also. This is my side business. My real business is taking darshan of you. So this knower of the fields knows what's happening in each one of these field. But you can know what's happening in your field. You don't know what happening even in your husband or wife's field, right? So his husband may be a little tired and wife will ask, what happened? He says, nothing. I'm just a little tired and go to sleep. He's actually facing some big pressure at office. Maybe he has to pay some loans tomorrow morning and he don't know where to get the money from, right? So much tension going on. But he'll say, I just have a little headache and he'll go to sleep. And the wife will not know what's happening in husband's field, in his mind or body. But this knower of the fields with a plural, he knows what's happening in everybody. That's the purport of this, graphically speaking. Right? The field of the activity is the body, capacity to enjoy sense gratification, right? So each one of us has a capacity to enjoy sense gratification, right? Whether it's watching a movie, some people can watch 3 movies in a row, right? Somebody like me, after one movie, I'll get a headache. Of course, now I don't even watch movies for that reason. And there's not much interesting, anyways, right? There are better things to do in life than watch some idiot dancing after some other idiot, right? Like George Bernard Shaw, he said, cricket is a game of 11 fools playing and 11,000 fools watching. So each one of us has capacity to enjoy sense gratification. So what are the senses? What are the senses? You don't know what senses are?
5 plus 5.
Yeah, 5 plus 5. But first the 5. and then you can do the remaining 5. So all the time we are spending our life doing sense gratification. Like if I had a whiteboard or a blackboard, I'll be drawing this. Since I have no board, I'm just doing it on a PowerPoint slide, right? So each one of us has these 5 senses. So our whole life is spent taking care of these 5 senses. You may say, I'm taking care of my kids, but that's also taking care of 5 senses only. Why? Can anybody tell me how taking care of kids is taking care of 5 senses? Anybody feel miserable after taking care of kids? Great. Say something. Okay, you feel happy after taking care of your senses, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So what's happening is you're taking care of our eye senses, tongue sense, nose sense, ear sense, touch sense, right? So these senses, our whole life becomes taking care of this sense gratification. And our whole life is nothing but taking care of these senses. As a consequence, what happens? All your life, you only take care of your senses. And we undergo so many changes in the body, like boyhood, youth, old age, disease. And then we start thinking, what? I am happy, I am man, I am woman, I am dog, I am cat. These are all called the bodily designations. Right? What is a designation? What is the English meaning of designation? Say something. You know this answer. You're all like bachelor's degree holders, right? It's not easy to get a bachelor's degree in India. You have to study. You know this. What is a designation? In Sanskrit, it's called upadhi. Upadhi means how we will be known to others. Like I am a father, I am a mother, I am American, right? I am Indian. Then I am software engineer. Right? These are designations. Yeah. So what are these designations doing? It gives artificial identification for that individual, but it is different than the body. The designation is different than the body. Just like we may use many articles like clothes, but we are different from the things used. You are not your car. Are you your car? You use the car, but you are not the car. Right? So again, the same chapter 2 is being detailed here, more detailed. That's all it is. But the key point here is superior position and subordinate position is described in these chapters. That God, how is he superior to us? Right? Living entities are subordinate under all circumstances. We can never be independent. We are always subordinate. We are subordinate in all circumstances. Then what about him? What about the Lord? Is he subordinate? It's a trick question again.
No.
Anybody has a different answer? Anybody has a
But he is controlled by devotees, so sometimes
yeah, correct. That's the answer. No, he is not subordinate, but yes, he's subordinate to his devotees. Right? So, how do we know him? Through fruitive activities. What is the Sanskrit term for fruitive activities? You know this, you're not saying it.
Karma Kanda.
Karma Yoga.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not Karma Yoga, Karma Kanda.
Kanda.
Karma Yoga is very high. We are not even close to it. Karma Kanda is what we do. And what is cultivation of knowledge?
Jnana Yoga.
Again, no yoga.
Kanda. Okay.
Yoga is too advanced. Jnana Kanda. Right?
Bhakti.
If it becomes Jnana Yoga, that's good. That's the goal of life. If it becomes Karma Yoga, it's goal of life. If it becomes Bhakti Yoga, it is goal of life. So this is Bhakti, but technically it is called Upasana Khanda. Khanda means what? Khanda, Khandalakinda Khandinchadu. What does Khanda means?
A small division.
Division, yeah. It's a division. Upasana Khanda means a division of Upasana. What does Upasana mean? Upasana. So you are at a lower position than God. That's called Upasana Khanda. You are at lower level, you are subordinate to God. Upasana. Right? So you see that from one purport, we have one slide. So there's a graphical way in which we can explain this knowledge to others. We have capacity to enjoy sense gratification with these 5 senses. Yeah, tongue, is the most dangerous sense. So you can kill yourself with the tongue. Like there are people who drink a lot and kill themselves like that, right? With liver problem. That's it. That's the first verse. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi.
Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi.
Sarva kshetreshu bharata.
Sarva kshetreshu bharata.
Kshetra kshetrajnor jnanam.
Kshetra kshetnajnyor jnanam.
Yatta jnanam matam mama.
Yattaj jnanam matam mama.
So, sign of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. Okay, so he is the knower in all bodies, right? We are the knower in one body. He is the knower of all fields or body. Field means like, a place where certain activities happen. Just like field is a place where crops are grown. To understand this body and knower is called knowledge. Knowledge means to understand this gentleman here, the knower of all bodies. That is called knowledge. Everything else is ignorance. Okay, so Gopal, please read purport.
Sure, Prabhuji. While discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and super soul, we shall find 3 different topics of study: the Lord, the living entity, and matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are 2 souls, individual soul and super soul. Because the super soul is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna says, I am also knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. I am present in every body as Paramatma or super soul. One who studies the subject matter of field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely in terms of this Bhagavad Gita can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as Super Soul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all different bodies of all various species of life. A citizen can know everything about his patch of land, But the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and the citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. The body consists of senses. The Supreme Lord is Rishikesha, which means the controller of senses. He is the original controller of senses, just as the king is the original controller of all activities of the state. The citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord says, I am also knower. This means that he is the super knower. The individual soul knows only his particular body. In the Vedic literature, it is stated as follows. Kshetrani hi sarirani vijam chapi subha shubhe tani vetti sa yogatma tata kshetra gnana uchyate. The body is called the kshetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the owner of the body. Therefore, he is called the knower of all fields. The distinction between the field of activities, the knower of the activities, and the supreme knower of the activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the super soul is known in terms of Vedic literature as Jnana. That is the opinion of Krishna. To understand both the soul and super soul as one yet distinct is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activity is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower of knower, who dominates or controls nature and individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. The material world, which is the field of activities, is the is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity. And above them, both the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. It is stated in Vedic language in Svetaswara Upanishad, Bhokta Bhojyam Preritaram cha Matva Sarvam Proktam Trividham Brahman Etat. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and Jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman, is trying to control material nature, and the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of two knowers, one is fallible, another one is infallible. One is superior, another is a subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who states here very clearly, I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies and there are different owners of the bodies, because each individual soul has his individual capacity for lording it over material nature. There are different bodies, but the Supreme also is present in them as controller. The word cha is significant, for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana. Krishna is the super soul present in each and every body apart from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that real knowledge is to know that super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer.
Okay, so what is the key point in this one? Anybody?
Krishna is the supreme personality who is the knower of all the individual fields or
Yeah, but is the Supreme Personality the knower? What does the purport say?
supreme knower.
Supreme knower, but who is he? Who is Supreme knower?
Supreme Personality of Godhead.
No, Super Soul. Right? Does his Supreme Personality of Godhead? No. Talks about Super Soul.
Oh, okay.
Present in each and every body apart from the individual soul. Right? So that is the subtle distinction. So if he says Super Soul, who knows what will come? Right? So there is this Super Soul, Param Atma. Right? And you see this image here. The Super Soul is distributed in every living entity. That is the message of this purport. So this is sense gratification, which is at a pretty low level. The soul is trying to do that. But the Super Soul distributes himself into all living entities, plants and animals and everybody in between. Right? So what happens is there is a mini Super Soul, distributed Super Soul in each one of these living entities. Right? So who is controlling the field of activities? Who is controlling the field of activities?
Supreme knower.
Huh? Knower or super knower? It's a trick question.
Knower to the some extent, but overall supreme knower.
But what does the purport say? Does it say knower to some extent? Does it even say that?
Supreme knower actually.
Yeah, super soul is controller of both the field of the activities and the finite enjoyer. He's controlling you also, right? So this gentleman here, super soul, who is distributed from the super knower, it's distributed computing. So one piece here, one piece here, one piece here. In this way, trillions of pieces. He divides himself simultaneously. That is where people, get confused, and people think, God's importance is not that much. He's already there in each one of you. He's there in that pickpocket's body, next to the pickpocket soul, and he's there in the bhakta's body who is trying to take darshan, and the pickpocket is now going to steal from his pocket. The super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer. Who is the finite enjoyer? Who is the finite enjoyer? We, right? We are not infinite enjoyer. If I give you 1,000 rasgullas and say eat, you cannot eat. If I give you 10 houses to live in, you can still live in only one house. Can you live in 10 houses simultaneously? Then you'll say, oh, no, I cannot live. So it is, let me call it, what is it called? Investment property. Right? You cannot live in all 10. Impossible. So the knower of the field is a finite enjoyer. And the real enjoyer is Krishna. Real enjoyer is Krishna. You cannot enjoy. Impossible. Right? You may have 10,000 houses. You may have 10 houses. You cannot enjoy even 2 houses. Forget enjoying 10 houses. Usually somebody else is paying you a rent and they are enjoying that. So we are finite enjoyers. Then who is the real enjoyer then? Who is the complete enjoyer? Yeah,
Krishna.
Krishna. Same concepts from Discover Yourself. If you have attended that course, we don't talk about anything different. So what is one of the definitions of God? Supreme enjoyer, supreme knower,
Supreme controller.
supreme controller, and cause of all causes. So Discover Yourself didn't come from vacuum. It is like basically you take all these purports, take one line item from each purport, and there you are. That course came about, right? So when we say supreme knower, supreme enjoyer, and as you progress through these purports, then you will know that he is also the supreme controller. And then he's cause of all causes. So then what role do we have? Are we just like, robots? What role do we have?
The role is to serve him.
Yeah, but that's very advanced. What are we doing right now?
Sense gratification.
Sense gratification, exactly. So what is our role? Our role is to gratify our senses. But what will happen if you do too much sense gratification?
Will continue to degrade.
Yeah, we degrade. That's it. We degrade. That's what's happening right now. All over America, people are getting degraded. All over world, people are getting degraded. So we can still serve our senses, but by serving Krishna. So who is the boss of all of our senses? We have senses. Krishna has senses. But if we please Krishna's senses, our senses will also be satisfied. Supreme is also present them as controller. So you don't control yourself also. Who is controlling? Supreme is controlling you. Then what is our role? Actually, we don't have much role. Only thing is we can cooperate with the Supreme. Because if you don't cooperate with the Supreme, you will be beaten left and right through so many challenges in life. So we don't have any individual happiness. Our happiness is linked to Krishna. So therefore, we need to make Krishna
But
happy.
in a way, he's allowing us to do sense gratification, right, Prabhuji? So
Yeah,
he's
he's allowing you to do. But he's saying also that the real sense gratification is my sense gratification, not your sense gratification. Hishikesh sevanam bhaktir uchyate. So that verse, he says that, Acharyas say that if you serve the senses of Krishna, then our senses will also be served. So this is like a very key point, right? It's a very key point. Then once you come to the conclusion that he is the controller, he is the real enjoyer, he is the knower, then who are we? We are nothing. And then he's saying that you cannot even enjoy, so what's the point? Therefore, you serve Krishna. People are trying to enjoy through various things by inventing more and more things. But if you ask any average person, they're all miserable. All miserable. Even the richest, very, very rich people are also very miserable. Because misery, nobody can control. How can you control misery? You have heat, and then you buy air conditioner. Then you have to pay the air conditioner bill, and when it breaks, the misery is even higher than before. If you didn't have the air conditioner, then you would have certain level of misery. Now you have it and then you lose it. It will be higher sense of misery. Very tough, very tough. And the whole world is confused. They're thinking happiness comes from X, Y, and Z when it doesn't come from any of these things. That's why Bhagavad Gita is so powerful. It's very different, right? Like, if you look at, Bible or Quran, they say, yeah, be a nice person, pray to God, be nice to your neighbor. all for sense gratification. But Krishna is saying that your senses are not yours, your body is not yours, you are not yours, they all belong to me. Then the whole perspective changes. It's getting interesting now. Takshetram yakcha yadrikcha
tat kshetram yeccha yadrikcha
yadvikari yatascha yat
yadvikari yataschayat
sachayo yat prabhavascha
sachayo yat prabhavascha
tat samasena me shrinum.
tat samasena me shrunu.
Samasena means summary. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it's produced, who that knower of the field of activity is, and what his influences are. Now he's doing a deep dive. He's analytically breaking it down for us. Okay, Disha, read.
Yeah. The Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional positions. One has to know how this body is constituted, the materials of which this body is made, under whose control this body is working, how the changes are taking place, where from the changes are coming, what the causes are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of the individual soul is, and what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the super soul, their different influences, the potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Where is it? Yes, and all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every body to be one with the individual soul, the Jiva. This is something like equating the potent and the impotent.
Yeah. So very, very small summary. Essentially, the key point is a few things that he's going to outline. This is just a question, right? The answers is coming next time. This is just a statement that the answers are coming down the road, right? So materials from which body is made, Sankhya Yoga. Whose control is this body working? How the changes are taking place? Where the changes are coming from? What the causes are for the changes? What the reasons are? And what the ultimate goal of individual soul is? And what the actual form of individual soul is, right? Again, he is discussing Sankhya Yoga from chapter 2, right? Ultimately, Bhagavad Gita message is the same. Chapters may change, but message cannot be different. How can message be different? Message has to still be the same. So materials of the body, control, changes, where, what, goal, and what the actual form of individual soul is. Rishibir Bahuda Geetam
Rishibir bahuda geetam
Chandobhir Vividhai Pritak
chando bir vividai dai pratak
Brahma Sutra Padashaiva
Brahma Sutra Padaschaiva
Etumadbhir Vinishchitai.
Etumadbir Vinishchitai.
That knowledge of the field of activities and knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. So in this, it is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Right? So this is the very thing. Scientists always look for what is the cause and what is the effect. So that is the goal of understanding in this particular verse. What is the cause and what is the effect? Okay, Jaipal read. Jaipal already read, right? Like, let's see, Gopal.
The Supreme
Gopal,
Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Krishna is explaining this most controversial point regarding this duality and non-duality of the soul and the super soul by referring to a scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. First, he says this according to different sages. As As far as the sages are concerned, beside himself, Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra, is a great sage, and in the Vedanta Sutra, duality is perfectly explained. And Vyasadeva's father, Parasura, is also a great sage, and he writes in his books of religiosity, Aham Tvam Tata Hanye, we, you, I, and the various other living entities are all transcendental, although in material bodies. Now we are fallen into the ways of three modes of material nature, according to our different karma. As such, some are on the higher levels and are on the lower nature. The higher and lower natures exist due to ignorance and are being manifested in an infinite number of living entities. But the super soul, which is infallible, is uncontaminated by the three qualities of nature and is transcendental. Similarly, in the original Vedas, a distinction between soul and super soul and the body is made. Especially in Katha Upanishad, there are many great sages who have explained this, and Parasara is considered principal among them. The word Chandobihi refers to the various Vedic literatures. The Taittiriya Upanishad, for example, which is a branch of Yajurveda, describes nature, the living entity, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated before, Kshetra is the field of activities, and there are two kinds of Kshetra Gnana, the individual living entity and the supreme living entity. As stated in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahma Pucham Pratistita, there is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy known as Annamaya, dependence upon food for existence. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. Then in Prana Maya, after realizing the Supreme Absolute Truth in food, one can realize the Absolute Truth in the living symptoms or life forms. In Jnana Maya, realization extends beyond the living symptoms or living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Then there is a Brahman realization called Vijnana Maya, in which the living entities, mind, and life symptoms called Vijnana Maya, in which the living entities, mind, and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. The next and supreme stage is Ananda Maya, realization of all the blissful nature. Thus, there are 5 stages of Brahman realization, which are called Brahma Pucham. Out of these, the first 3, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Jnanamaya, involve the fields of activities of the living entities. Transcendental to all these fields of activities is the Supreme Lord, who is called Anandamaya. The Vedanta Sutra also describes the Supreme by saying Anando Maya Bhayasat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is by nature full of joy. To enjoy his transcendental bliss, he expands him into Vijnana Maya, Prana Maya, Jnana Maya, and Anna Maya. In the field of activities, the living entity is considered to be enjoyer, and different from him is the Ananda Maya. That means that if living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Ananda Maya, then he becomes perfect. This is the real picture of Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field. The living entity as a subordinate knower and the nature of the field of activities, one has to search for this truth in the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. It is mentioned here that the codes of Brahma Sutra are very nicely arranged according to the cause and effect. Some of the sutras are aphorisms or Navyad Ashruteha, Nata Shruteha, and Paratu Tach Charuteha. The first aphorism indicates the field of activities, the second indicates the living entity, and the third indicates the Supreme Lord, the summum bonum among the manifestations of various entities.
Yeah, this is a little bit scholarly discussion, right? Different levels like Navi Yada Shruteha, Natma Shruteha, and Paratu Chak Shruteha. One is indicating field of activities. Second indicates the living entity within the field of activities. Third indicates Supreme Lord. Again, nothing different than what we discussed earlier. Yeah, Swami Prabhupada has quoted from the Brahma Sutra. One other thing important is, ultimately everything is Anando Mayo Bhasyat. Means everything is pleasure, supreme pleasure. That expands into Vijnana Maya, Prana Maya, Jnana Maya, and Anna Maya. And what are these? First three, Annamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, involve the fields of activities of living entities. So this is our department. Annamaya means just by eating. We survive just on eating. Then Pranamaya, eating, and then life forms. We see life forms. Like your computer is not moving, but your kids are moving. Your plants outside are moving. Animals are walking around. So life has a different thing. That is second stage realization. Jnanamaya, right? Which is, how does Prabhupada describe that? Extends beyond living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Right? Annam is just food. Pranam is just seeing the life forms. Jnana means, oh, there's thinking involved, feeling involved, willing involved. Then, once one comes to Brahman realization, Vijnana Maya, he says, okay, I am different from the symptoms. I am different from my mind. So this is psychology. You're separating yourself from your mind. You're separating yourself from your life symptoms. Right? Manifestation. Okay, let's break it down. So these are 5 stages of Brahman realization. So what are the 5 stages of Brahman realization? We can map it out. I mean, this is a very advanced topic because most people won't understand this in the world. Because why? Why wouldn't they understand? Why will they not understand? No answers?
Because we are still not convinced that we are different from body.
No, no, I understand that, but can you talk in terms of what you see on the screen? Because they are in stage. What is dash?
Ignorance.
No, ignorance, again, you are giving general answer. That is correct answer. I'm saying in the context of this purport by Swami Prabhupada.
Annamaya.
There you go.
They are in the materialistic.
No, Annamaya. He already gave the answer,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
See, what do people do? They go work in the office like crazy, go to a store, buy some meat and some alcohol, go drink and eat and go to sleep. So predominantly 99% of the world's population is here in Annamaya stage. So what can you expect?
But Prabhu, what is Annamaya stage? Are we not
Annam ante enti? What is Annam? Eating.
No, but I thought Annamaya stage is like realizing God in the food.
Yeah,
But majority won't do that.
No. Majority of the people, their only reason for existence is to eat. So for them,
Correct.
God is
But
eating.
is Annamaya is that?
No, yeah. Even the beginning stage of Annamaya, that, yeah. You are talking about Annamaya as in eating prasadam. But then by the time you're already coming here, Jnanamaya, you're understanding that the prasadam is not different than Krishna.
Okay.
Right? So in the Jnanamaya stage, you are thinking extends beyond living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. So you think, you feel, and then you do it. Right? So you're correlating these three different processes. Yeah, I mean, the fellow here will not really understand anything beyond eating. So they are like animals, basically, right? When Keshananda Prabhu came, I took him to the Seattle Tower. What is the tower called? Some crazy name.
Space Needle?
Huh?
Space Needle?
Oh, yeah, Space Needle. It's nothing to do with space. Space is quite far away. It's just a needle on top of a 40-storied building. That's all it is. Space is quite far away. Yeah. I gave a class few months ago, right? So space is quite far away. It's like 180 miles higher than Earth. That's from there. It's called space or antariksha, right? So this is not space needle. This is just like a needle sticking out, like a carrot. So yeah, Annamaya is food is the goal of life. Pranamaya, oh, there is life around me. Oh, look, there is somebody walking around me. Jnana, oh, not only they are walking, but they can think. Based on thinking, they can feel. Based on feeling, they can do something. Willing means what? I am willing to do something. Then these three are what? What does Swami Prabhupada say? Anna, Prana, Jnana. Field of activities of the living entities. So this is our territory, living entities. And transcendental to this field is activities of the Supreme Lord called Anandamaya. That's why it's called Anandamayo Bhasyat. Right? So technically, this is the order. Ananda, Vijnana, Jnana, Prana, Anna. Everybody with me so far? Above the line, below the line. Who is above the line?
Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord. How do we know? How do we know? Okay, your relative comes. You try to talk to me about Bhagavad Gita. And he says, how do you know? What is your answer? Say something.
How do you know what, Prabhuji? I mean, how do you know?
Anything. How do you
From
know?
the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada.
Yeah, but how do you know Bhagavad Gita is correct?
Like
Because the
Sadhu,
time
Shastra, Guru.
Okay. Yeah, you have to give the whole reasoning, right? When I say how do you know means you have to give the whole reasoning because you will be challenged by your friends, relatives, everybody will challenge you. So you should know these things. I mean, you should be able to defend these things.
But is there any simple answer, Prabhuji?
There's no simple answer. There is no one-line answer in spirituality. We want one-line answers, but there is none. So these living entities and this is God, right? Transcendental means something that cross over. That is Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the top. I mean, each one of you will have a different style of how you convince other people, but each one of you will have a style, no doubt about that. In temple, Dhananjay Prabhu has one style. Whoever comes, he talks to them about Krishna. And he's pretty good at it, actually, amazingly good. So, living entity is considered to be enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya. So, Anandamaya is, higher than this enjoyment propensity. Here, living entities are what? What was the statement? Are considered to be the enjoyer. Why? When you eat, who is enjoying? Who is enjoying when we eat? We are enjoying. Yes or no? So we are enjoying
Yes.
independent of Krishna by eating barbecue. We are enjoying dependent on Krishna if we are eating prasadam.
For sure.
And then one day, living entity will decide to enjoy in dovetailing himself with Anandamaya. What is dovetail?
Connecting
Connecting
your activity with Krishna.
with activities with Krishna. Again, the philosophy is not different. It's the same thing said in a different way. That's it. Philosophy cannot be different. It is always the same. So living entity is considered to be enjoyer, but if living entity dovetails himself with Anandamaya, then what happens? What magical things happen?
Then there is no line.
There's no line. Exactly. You will become perfect. You will become perfect. So supreme knower of the field. The living entity is known as subordinate knower. So you have to remember this point. So he is the supreme knower or super knower, and we are subordinate in all circumstances, and therefore we are called subordinate knower. That's it. Very simple. Once you understand Srila Prabhupada's way of writing purports, he will tell you very clearly. There's no more confusion left. Any thoughts, questions? So why can a subordinate knower create a universe?
No,
Why?
because we don't know anything about beyond him.
He doesn't know. And even if he creates, it will be to the extent that he knows. He may create like a 3D model, put in a movie. I mean, all movies are what? Fantasies about the spiritual world, right? When you say Star Wars, they're going in the universe, they're firing from one rocket to the one spaceship to the other spaceship. These are all fantasies of what the spiritual world might be. But they won't know. Why? They cannot know. Subordinate under all circumstances. So then how do we know about the supernova or supreme knower?
Just reading about him.
Huh? What? Say that again.
Reading about him and understanding about him.
Yeah. So when you're reading, where does that reading come from?
Scriptures,
Scriptures. And where does scripture come from?
Krishna.
Yeah. So if the superknower descends to give this knowledge to the subordinate knower, then you will have knowledge. And what is this process called? Superknower coming and giving the knowledge to a subordinate knower.
Parampara.
Parampara comes later, sir.
Disciplic succession, right? That's how we know the knowledge is carried.
Yeah. Knowledge is secondarily carried through disciplic succession, but primarily, how does the knowledge come? Yeah, your
He
answers are all
descends
correct.
himself and tells them.
Yeah. And what is that thing called when he comes and gives that knowledge?
Incarnates himself.
Yes. Avatar. Avatar. Hava means descend. Taran means walking around. That's it. That's the knowledge. Like he's a supreme knower or supernova. We got two different terms from Prabhupada and two different purports. So it is supernova, supreme knower, supreme controller, cause of all causes. Unless he comes and tells, the subordinate knower will never do. So what are scientists doing? They're trying to find out on their own. Will they ever succeed? Will they ever?
No.
Huh?
No. They can only succeed to an extent. They
Only
know.
to an extent. Only to an extent. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. Only to a certain extent, because they will not know what the Lord knows unless He comes down and tells us. So Bhagavad Gita is when the Lord came down and He's telling us. Mahabhutani ahankaro
Mahabhutani ahankaro
buddhir avyaktam cha
buddhir avyaktam evacha
indriyani dasaikam cha
indriyani dasaikam cha
panchachendriya gocharaha
pancachendriya gocharaha
ichchadveshaha sukam dukkam
ichchadveshaha sukam dukkam
sangataschetana dhritihi
sangataschetana dhritihi
etakshetram samasena
etad kshetram samasena
savikaram
savikaram udartam
udahritam.
udahritam.
The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, and the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, aggregate of life symptoms, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions, all these are considered to be the field of activities and its interactions. So what's happening is there is this giant field around us, and we are swimming in this field, right? We are swimming in this field.
But field is just the body, right, Prabhuji?
No, field is, there are two kinds of fields. You missed that point. One is the field, ultimately the field is the material world itself.
Okay.
Right? So you may have field next to each other, millions of fields like that. That is also field, right? A combination of all fields. That's also field.
Okay.
Right? If you see paddy fields in coastal Andhra Pradesh, millions of acres. But yeah, but each one of them is, each farmer can only own 2 or 3 acres, because each acre is like 2 crore rupees. How are you going to earn the whole thing? Not possible. So this is the field of activities, right? Many things, many things. And within this field is this other field of existence of you and me. This is also field. Can you deny that? And within this field, who else is there? There are two people.
Soul and super soul. Soul and super.
Super soul again. Yeah. So that's why this section of Bhagavad Gita is called Jnana Yoga, because it gives a lot of knowledge. The real essence is already given. Krishna said, Man manabhav mad bhakto, always think of me, become my devotee, offer your homage unto me in 10th chapter. After that, you don't expect something more to come. He already gave you, but he's giving more deep dive. Right? So soul and super soul are here. So don't expect Bhagavad Gita to give you something more information. He already given. A lot is given already. Now we have to act on that platform. That is the challenge. So now we have to move from Jnana to what?
Bhakti.
Vijnana. Trick question again. How do you go? Anna, Prana, Jnana, Vijnana,
Vijnana,
and then Anandamaya. So in the Anandamaya, that is pure bhakti. So you can say that this is pure bhakti, not bhakti stage. This is one other way of describing it, right? There are different hierarchies. This is one hierarchy. Not like this is the only hierarchy. This is one hierarchy. So one has to walk along this hierarchy. So this is the broader field, the 5 great elements. Can we live without the 5 great elements? Not even for a day.
No.
You cannot, simply not. False ego is there within us. Intelligence is there within us. There's some unmanifested stuff here and there. There is desire, ichcha, dvesha. There's 5 sense objects are there. The 10 senses are there. 5 internal senses and 5 external senses, in case you are wondering what it is. And of course, there is the mind also. Right? Anyway, this is the bad representation. You know why? Why is the bad representation? Because not everything came in that picture. Not everything came in the picture. Only 5 of them came. So let's see if there is a better representation. Maybe this one. Yeah, there you go. There's so many other things that came. So there is intelligence, the 5 great elements, ahankara, ichcha, distress, pain, unmanifested, 10 senses in the mind, happiness, hatred, the aggregate of everything, like that. No, there's so much more. Again, here, this is a summary study. Krishna is not giving everything. All these are considered in summary. Later on in Srimad Bhagavatam, he'll blow these out again. Krishna's devotees will blow these out again. Expansion. Samasena. Samasena means summary. Sangahataha. Sangha means what? People coming together. This is called a Sangha. Right now we are doing Satsanga. So aggregate means everything put together. Chetana. Chetana means living symptoms. Right? So cross-indexed, living force, living symptoms. There are different definitions to this one, Chetana. So Krishna is saying this is the field of activities and its interactions. Right? Not only the field, but how these elements interact with each other. For example, intelligence interacts with the mind. We all know that. Mind interacts with the senses. Senses interact with the great elements. They interact with the sense objects. Then there is ahankara, even deeper than the intelligence. Then there is life symptoms. right? So there is a lot of interaction between these various things. So this is the scientific analytic deep dive. Okay, who didn't read this? Maybe Girish.
Oh, sorry. From all the authoritative statements of the great sages, the Vedic hymns, and the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, the components of this world can be understood as follows. First, there are earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the five great elements, Mahabhuta. Then there are false ego, intelligent senses for acquiring knowledge, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Then five working senses, voice, legs, hands, anus, and genitals. Then above the senses, there's the mind, which is within and which can be called the sense within. Therefore, including the mind, there are 11 senses altogether. Then there are the five objects of the senses: smell, taste, form, touch, and sound. Now, the aggregate of these 24 elements is called the field of activity. If one makes an analytic study of these 24 subjects, then he can very well understand the field of activity. Then there are desire, hatred, happiness, and distress, which are interactions, representative of the five great elements in the gross body. The living symptoms represented by the consciousness and convictions are the manifestation of the subtle body, mind, ego, and intelligence. These subtle elements are included within the field of activities. The five great elements are a gross representation of the false ego, which in turn represents the primal stage of the false ego, technically called the materialistic conception or the tamasha buddhi, intelligence and ignorance. This further represents the unmanifested stage of the three modes of material nature. The unmanifested modes of material nature are called pradhana. One who desires to know the 24 elements in detail along with their interactions should study the philosophy in more detail. In Bhagavad Gita, a summary only is given. The body is the representation of all these factors, and there are changes of the body, which are 6 in number. The body is born, it grows, it stays, it produces byproducts, then it begins to decay, and at the last it vanishes. Therefore, the field is a non-permanent material thing. However, the Kshetra Jnana, the knower of the field, its proprietor, is different.
The field is a non-permanent material thing. Very important point. Right? This field is a non-permanent material thing. The Kshetrajna, knower of the field, is different. And who is the Kshetrajna? Who is the Kshetrajna?
Soul and super soul.
Yeah, both. Here the difference is, he's primarily referring to super soul, but soul is also Kshetrajna. Soul knows his Kshetra. My Kshetra is my body. Your Kshetra is your body. And Krishna Kshetra is all bodies. Every body. Everybody. Only summary is given in Bhagavad Gita. So Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, goes into a lot of depth. First, unmanifested modes of material nature is called Pradhan. From Pradhan comes, due to Tamasa Buddhi, intelligence and ignorance, comes Ahankaram. And from there come the five great elements. So what does it tell you? From Pradhan,
What is Pradhan Guruji?
Pradhan means unmanifested original state. So from Krishna's energy, first comes Pradhan. From first comes Mahat Tattva. From there comes Pradhan. From Pradhan comes Tamasa Buddhi, which leads to false ego. From there come the five great elements. So think about it, right? We were all in the spiritual world, happily enjoying with Krishna, eating laddus. Then we got angry at Krishna and we said we want to enjoy independent. So Mahatattva to Pradhan, Pradhan to Tamasa Buddhi, false ego, Ahankar. From Ahankar, all these great elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether came. And Krishna said, okay, now you go and enjoy this matter. What are we enjoying? What is an iPad? It's mostly earth, right? Silicon. That's all earth. Plastic, that's earth. So for enjoying, you need matter. When we get sick and tired of this matter, enjoyment in spiritual world is not this enjoyment. There, everything is spiritual. It's very different, right? So here to enjoy, you need matter. Like what is a car? What is car? 99% of the car is earth. Here and there is a little bit of water. There is a little bit of fire. Once you start burning, again earth. When you burn petroleum, that is earth, then you get fire, and that fire gets energy and it pushes the engine pistons inside in the cylinder. That changes to crankshaft, and crankshaft converts to wheels, and the car moves forward. All earth, whole thing is earth. So to enjoy, you need these 5 elements. You getting the picture? But enjoyment of Gyanis is different. What do they do? Where do they enjoy, Gyanis? Do they enjoy with matter?
No,
Where do they enjoy?
they enjoy in the service of the Lord.
Gyanis don't enjoy in the service of the Lord. Bhaktas do that.
Oh, okay. They enjoy by realizing the God. I mean,
Yeah.
this
They enjoy where? They enjoy in the mind.
mind,
They
the
don't
mind.
are. The Gyani who is sitting on the banks of river Ganga and chanting the name of God or meditating, he's enjoying in the mind. In the mind, he's creating magnificent palaces in spiritual world. He is seeing Krishna in every one of them. Does he need matter?
No,
No. We are fools. We need matter to enjoy. Gyani is enjoying in the mind. Mind is a fantastic place. Do you know that? Here, to buy a Tesla, you need $85,000 or $100,000, right? You can enjoy a Tesla in the mind. Did you know that? You don't need a physical Tesla. Why Tesla? You can enjoy a spaceship that goes at million miles an hour in your mind. Why spend all energy like Elon Musk trying to build all the spacecraft, or like Jeff Bezos? You can build a faster spacecraft than Elon Musk in your mind. So Gyanis are, that's why, superior than Karmis. Because in your mind, you can create anything on this planet or anything not on this planet. So that's why, see, because we fell down, that's why the term used fell down from spiritual world. When you fall down from spiritual world, what you can do in the spiritual world, you don't need matter. You're just enjoying. Anando mayo bhasyat. Why? Because Krishna is enjoying. Because he's smiling, you're also smiling. Then this tamasa buddhi, you say, I need matter. And in this I need matter business, you say, Arey, my neighbor bought a Tesla, I need to buy a Tesla. And the whole life goes away in that. So you don't need anything. And a bhakta doesn't need even the mind. He's always thinking of Krishna's happiness. Oh, maybe I should cook for Krishna. Maybe I should clean for Krishna. Maybe I should give a Bhagavad Gita class for Krishna. Maybe I should hear Srimad Bhagavatam for Krishna. Right? So what do the sages of Naimisharanya do? Thousands of sages came to Naimisharanya, and Suta Goswami is giving a lecture on Bhagavad Gita. What are they doing? Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. Shrinvatam means hearing. What are they hearing? Swakata Krishnaha means they're hearing story of Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtanaha. So they're doing pious activity Punya by Shravanam, hearing, and Kirtanam, singing the glories of God. Ultimately, that is the whole thing that you do in spiritual world. You don't need to have a Tesla, because nobody else has a Tesla. Nobody needs a Tesla. What do they have? They just think, oh, I need to go from sector 28 to sector 36, and they are in sector 36. So why do you need transportation vehicle? Goloka is divided into how many sectors? Anybody know? How many petals of leaves are there in the lotus flower in which Krishna resides?
8.
No, in the Brahma Samhita it is given, remember? Of course, in a sense it is unlimited, but there is a finite number to it. 1008. Have you seen the petals of lotus flower? You have not seen that picture? Okay, let me show you the picture. So we are fools because we are running after matter. There you don't need matter. So you just go, zoom, zoom. Everything is like lightning speed, more than lightning speed. Goloka lotus. Let's see what comes. No, Goloka chart. So how many petals are here? 1008. So when you build a home, you have to build a home according to this Vastu Mandala, right? This is Ishanyam. This is Nairuti. This is Agneya, lower right hand corner. If this is north, right? If you think of this as north. And lower left corner, what is it? I forget the name, but pretty much this is where the owner's bedroom should be. This is where the kitchen should be. This is where the puja room should be. This is where your granary should be. Okay, and then Vedas. Atharva Veda came from this. Rig Veda came from right. Yajur Veda came from bottom. Sama Veda came from left. And in this 1008 lotus petals, there is a central location. And center of the center in a hexagonal shape is Krishna's abode. Read the Brahma Samhita, you will come to know all this. So this Gokul Chandra Prabhu from ISKCON Salem, he thoroughly analyzed and he made a picture out of this. He is a very good devotee. Gokul Chandra Prabhu, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj's disciple. And then there is Trishulam here. Why? Because who is protecting Goloka? It is Shiva again. Shiva, Lord Shiva. So Shiva himself struggles to get inside. His only department is only outside this. Shiva cannot enter this. So one time, apparently Shiva tried to dress himself like a gopi to enter this and he was caught. No, sir, you cannot enter. This is for highest. So you have this Sudevi, Lalita, Vishaka, Suchitra, Induleka, Champakalata, Rangadevi, Tunga Vidya. These are the principal 8 gopis, like Jaipal was saying, right? He was thinking only 8. Hey, but what about all these others? Rati Manjari, Rupa Manjari, Vilasa Manjari. All these Manjaris are there. Then there are sub Manjaris. There's a whole hierarchy in the kingdom there. So very, very interesting. You have a long way to go to understand this knowledge, or forget going there. To understand itself will take many lifetimes. And Ayodhya is outside. So that's why Lord Rama is considered, I should say Lord Krishna is considered superior to Lord Ram. Right? So yeah, we have to understand this hierarchy. So in spiritual world, you don't need matter. You only need matter here. And we are foolishly running after matter. And there will be news articles about matter. Elon Musk is the second richest man in the world because he has too many matter. We run after matter. That's our weakness. But when we stop running after matter, the gates will open. Questions? So from Pradhan, from Mahatattva to Pradhan, Pradhan to Tamasa Buddhi, the great elements are created. So suppose if you say, I'm not dependent on the great elements, what will happen? Then you'll come out of false ego. Then you reverse your path. When you come to the unmanifested stage of three modes of material nature, then you go into Pradhan, Mahatattva, escape velocity, you leave the material world. There's an entire book in Srimad Bhagavatam talking about this process, how to reverse this, right? Falling is easy, going back is difficult. So you need escape velocity to escape the material world. So who wants to love matter? Tell me now. So if you love matter, you will stay here. Guaranteed. 125%. That is the purpose of Krishna telling us this Bhagavad Gita, to get out. Get out. Okay, let's chant now. Chaitanya